Geraint, 700 odd pages. That seems comprehensive. What more can you tell us?
Yes, it's been a review that has been just over 4 years in the making. In December of 2016, eminent QC Clive Sheldon was appointed, instructed by the Football Association, the FA, to conduct a wide-ranging review into allegations of child abuse within football. The review will make difficult reading for not just the Football Association, but for clubs throughout England and Wales, both professional and amateur as well. It is critical of the FA in a number of ways, more as an institution rather than any individuals. Let's go through the main points of the review. As you mentioned there, it is over 700 pages long. It has taken over 4 years to compile, so it is very, very detailed. But these are some of the main points of this independent review. That prior to 1995, that there is no evidence that the FA knew there was a serious or systematic problem of child sexual abuse within the game in England, and no evidence that the FA ought to have known that there was such a problem. The report goes on to highlight that the FA did not do enough to keep children safe between the years of 1995 and 2000. Let's remember that the remit, the terms of reference of this review, were between the years 1970 and 2005. So the FA did not do enough to keep children safe over the period 1995 to 2000. These are significant institutional failings for which there is no excuse, the Sheldon Review goes on to say. Child protection was not regarded as an urgent priority, again, between those years of 1995 to 2000. The review goes on to say that the FA did not act appropriately following Barry Bonnell's release from prison in 2003. Bonnell, of course, is a convicted sex offender. The FA should also have reviewed Bob Higgins, another youth football coach, his case following changes to disciplinary rules in 2003. In some cases, the clubs acted too slowly or inappropriately in response to allegations of abuse that were received. And then between the years 2000 to 2005, some cases where it appears that errors were made. Now, the Sheldon Review has operated closely with the police, with their Operation Hydrant, throughout the 4 and a bit years of its compilation. And Operation Hydrant has revealed that there were 240 suspects within football, and that sadly there are 692 survivors of abuse. The report goes on to say that most incidents of abuse are not reported, and it is clear, however, that there was a considerable amount of abuse. The report also goes on not just to criticise the FA, but to bring historical failures identified involving a number of football clubs: Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Manchester City, Crewe Alexandra, Stoke, Peterborough and Southampton. Clive Sheldon is quoted as saying, after this, that I do not want to give the impression that abuse in football was commonplace. It was not. He goes on to say that the overwhelming majority of young people who engage in the sport of football were able to do safely. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the 4-year inquiry has now produced this 707-page report, and it has received evidence from 62 survivors and another 157 individuals. Clive Sheldon, the author of the report, goes on to say that survivors deserve to be listened to and their suffering deserves to be properly recognised. It is important that this terrible history is not repeated. Clive Sheldon's report goes on to make 13 recommendations, including publishing safeguarding reports every year by the FA, and also is instructing clubs in the Premier League, the EFL, to appoint full-time safeguarding officers, and in the leagues lower than that, that safeguarding officers should be employed at least on a part-time basis. So of those 13 recommendations there from this Sheldon review have been made. So it is an extremely thorough account of what Clive Sheldon and his team have uncovered over the last 4.5 years. I've been privy to some off-record briefings by his team, and I can tell you that he and some of his team have received some help, some counselling from specialist people in this area due to some of the subject matter that they had to go through. But it is a wide-ranging report now, which the FA will be going through, and we will be hearing later this afternoon, not only from Clive Sheldon, the QC who compiled this report, but also from the Football Association as well. We'll bring you those responses from both Clive Sheldon and the Football Association here on Sky Sports News throughout the afternoon.
Geraint, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's get more reaction to the findings published in the Sheldon report. And in the case of the convicted paedophile football coach Barry Bennell, it has been claimed that the FA put children at potential risk of abuse following Bennell's release from prison in 2003. Former Manchester City midfielder Paul Stewart is a survivor of Bennell, and he's given his reaction to the report.
Having read just the executive summary, I think quite rightly he's highlighted the failings of the FA in numerous areas. You know, the fact that they didn't act quick enough, the fact they knew that there was convicted paedophiles operating in the game, and there wasn't, the checks weren't as stringent as they should have been. I was never over precious about the report, purely and simply because, you know, I knew what had happened to me, so nobody can write down what had happened to me. I already know. But I think when I get the chance to read it in its entirety, I think we will find that, and certainly from the executive summary, we will find that the FA have had a lot of criticism through the report, but I think rightly so in most of the areas, and I think they will admit that.
Something that popped out at me was the phrase institutional failing by the FA. That's pretty damning, isn't it? Yeah,
I think we know that the FA institutionally maybe need a reform. You know, and that's not just on the safeguarding side. I mean, as a whole, for far too long it's been, you know, the old boys, and you know, the game has moved on. The game itself has moved on so much. Then so should the governing body, and I, you know, for me personally, I don't see that that's happened.
Well, speaking on Sky News this morning, the former Newcastle midfielder and abuse survivor Derek Bell hopes the report can inspire other sports to follow football's lead.
The anger, I think, has gone. You never get closure on the situation, even though it's been to court and it's over. You try to get on with your life, and that's what I'm doing. I think the frustration is more of a word that I would use, that it's taken 4 years for this report to be published. And as survivors, I think, you know, we just want it out there. We're not trying to shoulder loads of blame here. What we're trying to do is make sure that football is a talisman for all sports.